In this episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief, I sit down with Calum to talk all about Motora, his new game that's currently on Kickstarter. Awesome art and awesome game mechanics coming to us from Twisted Bit Games. So, hold on until after or the sponsors of the show to find out all about Motora. And even after Motora, I hope you'll hang on to find out all about Kickstarter Corner. Plus, we'll be announcing the winner to our giveaway of that dice box that we talked about and let you know who won and who it's going to. So, hang on until after the show. This episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief is proudly being powered by Purple Aether Games, Rodent Rangers, Small Heroes, Big Adventures. It's a family-friendly RPG inspired by classic cartoons of mousy adventures. You know the such. Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, The Great Mouse Detective, those. So if you want a fun, family-friendly RPG game inspired by those fun cartoons with the mice, definitely check out Rodent Rangers, Small Heroes, Big Adventures. This ends on Thursday, the 25th of October. So by the time you hear this, it will be less than 38 hours, as that was how much time it had at the time of this recording. This episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief is also proudly being powered by Table Breakers, those super heavy solid metal poly dice set I like to talk about. They're the classic metal poly dice set with a touch of luxury. Bigger, heavier, and my favorite, dangerouser than, not dangerouser, they are more dangerous than the other dice you might have on your shelf. Plus, you'll get Christmas delivery. So definitely check out Table Breakers Super Heavy Solid Metal Poly Dice Set. This project is on Kickstarter for another 13 days as it ends on Tuesday, the 6th of November. So definitely check out Table Breakers. This episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief is also proudly being powered by Crypto Cartel. Will the Crypto Cartel get you? Or will you earn the most cryptocurrency above your friends on the black market? Definitely watch the Kickstarter video for this one and then come back and see if this is a game you like. Crypto Cartel has two different versions to play: a quick 30-minute game or an epic 1 to 2 hour game. Plays 2 to 8 players ages 14 and up. It looks like a fun game, and we sat down with Andy a while back ago to talk about it, so go back and listen to that. And then come back and back it. There's 19 days to go on this project, ending Monday the 12th of November. This episode of Getting Geeky with Game Life is also proudly being powered by Fossil Find, which is a domino-based board game that uses custom double 12 dominoes as game pieces. Heavy-duty dominoes, a fun roll and move game. If that's your cup of tea, definitely check out Fossil Find, a domino-based board game on Kickstarter through Sunday the 18th of November, so definitely check that out. This episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief is also proudly being powered by The Language of Magic. The Language of Magic is a deck building card game. You know, Game Relief, that I like deck builders. And this is for 1 to 4 players, inspired by the works of Richard Garriott. He actually even gave this game his blessing. Plus, I love the box that it comes in. You will too if you go check out the page. The picture doesn't do it justice, so watch the video. And it's getting really close to its goal. And there's still 11 days to go to get on this fun deck builder, as it ends on Sunday the 4th of November. So check out The Language of Magic.
Getting Geeky with Gamer Leaf, the podcast in which one man strives to level up his geekhood and helping you do the same, one battle at a time. Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf.
In all the ages past, Motora has been a bountiful island, but no longer. The gods are angry and are turning Motora into an empty wasteland. In order to save themselves, the tribes must gather the sacred idols scattered across the island. However, there are only enough idols to save one tribe. The others will be left to their fate. You will take control of the tribes of Motora in their quest to gather the sacred idols. While gathering the idols, your people will need food, water, and shelter. They won't survive long without them. As the island decays, you'll find yourselves fighting each other over more than just the idols. Gather an edge over your opponents using valuable tools and weapons. Go to the temple and curse your enemies or bless your tribe. Time is running out. Only one tribe will gather the idols. Only one tribe will survive. Pledge today and help us bring the island of Motora to life.
Did that sound familiar to you guys? It didn't to me neither, but this is a story of Motora, a new game that's currently on Kickstarter, and tonight we're lucky enough to have on the creator and mastermind behind this great game, Calum. Is that correct? Are you the mastermind behind this great game? And also, did I pronounce it right, Calum?
That's definitely me, and I think so. Motora? Yeah, I think you got it right.
Okay, well, I hope so. We'll just go with it. But yeah, looking at your Kickstarter game, let's rewind a little bit before we get into everything that's great about Motor, and let's rewind a little bit. So, how did you get into playing board games, or take us back to when you started playing in the tabletop board game industry or world?
I mean, in terms of serious board games, I think I have kind of a basic gateway game. When I was a kid, it was just the usual things like Risk and Monopoly. But then when I moved to Korea, where I lived while I was designing the game, they've got lots of board game cafes there. But one of the most common games is Catan, and I actually learned to play Settlers of Catan with the Korean version. So I couldn't read anything. I just got taught the rules and had to remember. And that was like my gateway drug. And then I met people who had other games and then just went from there.
Oh, wow, gateway game in a different language. That's a first for me, hearing it anyway.
Yeah, it's funny because like I could play the game now, but I don't know what any of the cards say. I just know it by the picture, and then I know what it does.
There you go. That's all you really need, ain't it?
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's quite funny sometimes. When we were trying to play, someone would look at it and go, "Oh, what's the picture? Oh, yeah, we'll work from that." Because sometimes people would forget. But then there was a board game group in my city that I was a part of, and it was good fun because that meant I got to try different games every week. And then so it was things like Blood Rage, things like Otis, the like submarine diving game, a bit of everything really.
Well, there you go. Awesome. And were they in your right language?
Yes, those were all in English. That was a board game group that was mostly other foreigners. Some Korean people as well, but mostly people from the UK, Ireland, the States, whatever have you.
Well, we'll just hope that they never change the pictures on the Catan, or then you'll be SOL, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Then I'll have to buy an English version instead of just still using my Korean one.
For sure. Wow. Now, you talked about playing a lot more games after that was first introduced. Do you have a current favorite game, and if so, what is that, Calum?
I'm a big sucker for Blood Rage, the Eric Lang game. I know that's something that a lot of people say is their favorite, but it was one of the first kind of games I really liked we played consistently. Although I don't know if you've played Lords of Hellas. That's another one that I really enjoy. I like games that have multiple ways to win, because one thing I'm not a fan of is I'm not a huge fan of like Euro games where you're slowly counting up victory points and everyone can see the progress the whole time. And I know that's exactly what you do in Blood Rage, but what I mean is when you get your points from not interacting with other players, I find that less fun than something where you get your points from directly interacting, whether that's aggressively or just trading. But I think the more player interaction you have in something, the more enjoyable it is for me.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Yeah, well, that's one of the first games that I actually fell in love with was Blood Rage, but didn't get to play it near as much as you, it sounds like. But it was a pretty fun game. But you talked about Lords of Hellas. What can you tell us about that in case somebody else hasn't heard of it neither?
If you haven't heard of Lords of Hellas, it's basically like take Greek mythology, throw it into kind of a sci-fi setting, and then that's your game. It's kind of it's an area control game where each player has a hero and their armies they're trying to lead. But there's three ways to win the game, or is there four? No, there's four ways to win the game. You can either build one of the big monuments to the gods and control it for 3 turns. You can capture all the territories of 2 different colors, or you can capture 5 of the temples on the map. And the fourth way to win, if you don't fancy playing the area control game, you can take your hero unit and hunt the monsters. So they have like a big kind of sci-fi Medusa, a big sci-fi Cerberus, and you can send your hero, I think it's Achilles. You've got Achilles, you've got Hercules, you've got Helen, and I can't remember who the other one is. But you can send your hero off to hunt these people and hunt these monsters. And then if you kill 3 of the monsters, you win the game.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's kind of intriguing with the 3 different ways to win the game. They actually sat down with another designer of another game that's on Kickstarter currently called Gnomes at Midnight, and there's like 3 different ways to win that game as well.
Yeah, I always like it when there's multiple ways.
Yeah, for sure. It kind of throws me off though, because my wife will be trying to go for 2 or 3 different ways, and I usually pick one, and it gets screwed up, and then my analysis paralysis will pick up or kick in.
Yeah, I know that can be a real pain, especially when you feel like someone's close to one of the objectives, but you feel close to yours, and you just have to think, "Can I get there first?" You're not sure. It can be pretty stressful.
It can be, yes, that's for sure. Now, with Lords of Hellas, if you were to do one thing to enhance that, what do you think that would be, Calum?
That's a difficult question. Not much, really. Actually, I think that's a pretty well designed game. The only kind of gripe I have is sometimes I think the components it's just greedy, but so all your troop miniatures, the cool kind of like Greek troop miniatures, aren't on the 20mm scale. They're like little smaller things. So ideally, I'd love to have the bigger miniatures, just so they're consistent and you can maybe use them in other things as well. But apart from that, couldn't think of much I would change about the gameplay.
Well, it sounds like they nailed it down, just make bigger miniatures, so that's cool. Now, word on the street is you have a new game on Kickstarter, Calum. What can you tell us about Motora?
There you go, got that time. Motora is a worker placement resource management game with dice combat and capture the flag objectives. And if any of those things sound interesting to you, then you should definitely enjoy the game. And with that wide a spread, I'm sure there's something that sounded interesting. It's a game I've designed. Yeah, it's not something I see in many games. It's a game I've been working on for more than 3 years, coming up on 3.5, 4 years. I had it at Gen Con this year. I'll be taking it to Spiel in Essen next week. And yeah, it's a labor of love. It feels cheesy to say, but I feel like I'm one of the so you don't get as many first time small creators who have just done everything they can, but now they just need the community's help to pay to get the game made. Like all the art in the game, I think I got really lucky. I worked with 2 artists and 1 graphic designer for the artwork on the game. And it came out really well, but I paid for all that myself. I've paid to go to all conventions myself, and now I just don't have the money to pay for a factory to mass manufacture. And it's a game I'm really proud of, and I just want to share it with as many people as I can. And that's why I went to Kickstarter.
Well, that's the place to be, so that's awesome. Now, looking at it, I really, like I said, the different mechanics or whatnot involving all 3 of those in the game. So, per se, man, you were to sit down, how are all those 3 mechanics going to go into play, or how's my turn going to look, I guess?
So the way it works is basically the theme of the game is that you're all leading your tribes on this island that's being destroyed by the gods. And the only way to survive is to gather these sacred idols. But there's only enough idols to save one of the tribes. So the way a turn works is there's 3 phases: a placement phase, a combat phase, and a resource phase. The placement phase will seem familiar to anyone who's in a worker placement game. Everyone takes turns putting out one of their meeples, but halfway through the turn, well, not halfway through, after you've all placed 2 meeples, a random event card is played. And this can do anything from make the turn nicer, where everyone will gather extra resources, although that is rare. But what it'll usually do is it'll usually destroy parts of the island. So as the game goes on, the resources get more and more scarce. In the combat phase, if two people want the same resource on the same tile, if they've both placed there, then they'll fight over it. That's when the dice combat comes in. That also comes in if you try to attack someone else's home base to steal their resources, or if they have one of the idols, you can try and steal that as well. And then finally, the resource management comes in the third phase, because even though you have these tribe members that you're trying to use to gather the idols with, you have to keep them alive. So you have to make sure you have enough food, water, and shelter to keep your people going. You'll use more food and more water, but your shelter is important as well, as that is the thing that can allow you to move further across the island. As usually you're capped, you can only move up to like 5 tiles away from your base, but if you use shelter, you can go a bit further. So the 3 different mechanics kind of blend into the 3 different phases, and then they go together quite well. Actually, that's one of the things that is a consistent piece of feedback. Is people say, "Oh, I was worried you wouldn't be able to mix everything together, but it's turned out quite well."
Well, that's pretty good that you're able to do that. Now, how would I know? How am I going to win? Am I counting victory points, or is there 3 different ways to win in Motora as well?
So there's 2 ways to win in this. The first is to gather a certain number of idols. The number of idols you need to win depends on the number of players. So, for example, if you're playing a 2-player game, there's more space, there's more room to spread out. You're going to need to gather more idols to win. If you're playing the full maximum, which is currently 6, you're only going to need 2 idols to win. As soon as you have a certain number of idols in your home village, you win the game. No questions asked. The other way to win is to kill off all the other players. Now, one of my favorite games at Gen Con this year, somebody won the game because the 3 other players all starved to death at the same time. So that kind of gives you the vibe of the game as well. But I know player elimination can be a contentious mechanic for some people, but the way the game is designed is, in Motora, player elimination is only really at the end of the game. So you're talking second last turn. People usually get eliminated around the end, just before it comes to a close, because there's no resources left on the island. I mean, don't get me wrong, sometimes people do go out early, but these are usually people who have decided, I'm not going to gather any food. I'm not going to gather any water. I just want to fight. And if they go out early, usually they go out smiling as well.
Okay, so kind of like the caterpillars and ants, where if they don't get all their resources or whatnot, they might die or whatnot, and there's no ants to gather the food for them. I guess you have to do it yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's awesome. Yeah, but in our family, we like to push your luck, but that's cool that you don't get eliminated until the end. They help people like me out, so that's good.
Well, you can push your luck if you. It's one of these things. You have to be. People have to go in aware that there are consequences in the game. If you don't get any resources, you are going to lose workers, and if you lose them all, that's when you get knocked out. But the game has built-in things to help you recover if you start going out. So, for example, when your tribe members, your meeples, die, you place them on these shrines next to your player board. Once you have 2 dead people on a shrine, you get the bonus of that shrine. So you might get like a bonus in combat or a bonus in gathering with your other people. So even if you feel kind of like, oh no, I'm going out of the game, what you do is you get this bonus that buffs the rest of your workers. So you might have a smaller tribe, but you have a more powerful, more efficient one.
Oh, okay, that's pretty cool. And it looks like this game, it doesn't come with those bigger miniatures that you talked about, but it looks like some pretty sweet meeples as well as their village markers.
Yeah, it doesn't come with any miniatures for now. I would love to make a miniatures game, but it's just I don't think miniatures are necessary for this game. I do have plans if the Kickstarter campaign goes well and I get the chance to make an expansion for this game. I'd love to make an expansion that uses plastic miniatures for a leader. But for the normal tribe members, you don't really need plastic. Also, not to mention that making games with plastic miniatures is so expensive. So expensive. I just saw the Hunger Games game was just finishing its campaign just there. And they're all plastic miniatures. And their target was so low. Their target was only like $12,000 or something. And then they had all these miniatures. I'll be interested to see how that turns out. I think they might already have the game made since it's such a big brand IP title.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of those. I don't know. A lot of people, even if it's not necessarily big brands or whatnot, you see them coming with incredibly low, as of late, incredibly low a goal and then try to exceed that or whatnot. I don't know if they put a lot of money towards it or they just hope to get lucky. It's hard to say.
I got asked about my funding goal actually. Some people said, "Isn't it a bit high?" And my answer to them is, "Yes, my funding goal is higher, but I'm painfully aware that this is my first campaign, and so I don't want to be someone who you see all these horror stories of a Kickstarter creator who forgot about shipping." A Kickstarter creator who forgot there's a 20% VAT tax to everything you sell in Europe. And then they run out of money, and then they have to come hat in hands to their backers who already got the game made and say, "Hey, can we have some more money? Because we ran out." Or I think there was a guy in America actually who had to sell his house because he was legally obligated to provide the Kickstarter. So he had to remortgage his house. So he had the money to provide it. So I went in and honestly costed I wanted it to be the case. So the current target for my game is £25,000. I think the dollar just got stronger, so I don't know what that is in dollars anymore.
Yeah, it looks like 32,000, almost $33,000. It looks like on my end.
So if I hit that target exactly, and I don't get a single penny more, I've budgeted it in a way that I know I can still afford to have the game made. I can still afford to get it shipped to all my depots next year when the game gets finished manufacturing, even if the prices go up. I know I can afford to pay for all my taxes everywhere I have to pay taxes. I know I can afford to pay for my customs shippings. All that stuff I know I can handle, even if I don't fund exactly on my funding goal. And so that's why the funding goal is what it is. I see some people who go in and they go in with a low goal thinking, yeah, okay, all we have to do is pass this goal and then get up to this and then we're good. And I think, I worry for those people because I feel like they're taking a huge risk, not just with themselves, but also with their reputation. Because if you're a small first-time creator and the first thing you do is one of these horror stories where the campaign ran out of money, so people backed and they never get anything, that's you toast. You're never making another game.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, I see that all the time. Like people, they have this incredibly low funding goal, or sometimes they don't do their study, and then they'll come out with an incredibly high goal, and then you wonder. But I think it's what you did is best to go ahead and get the game made, and then to make sure you do research. A lot of them get hit up on the shipping. They'll get a shipping rate or whatnot, and then they'll go ahead with all their stretch goals. It makes shipping change because it changes the weight or even changes the dimensions of the box that can hit you on shipping as well.
Because some people don't realize this, so I'll give this as a bit of insider industry knowledge. The shipping that you pay for, there's two parts to it. The first part is shipping the game from the factory to the different depots you use. So a lot of people like to say, "Oh, we have customs friendly shipping." That's good, but that means you're shipping to an extra depot for each customs friendly location you have. So say you're customs friendly in the EU and the US. That's two depots. If you're shipping your game from you're shipping your game from China, to two depots, one in the EU and one in the US. You're looking at around $7,000 for that. So that's something you have to either be charging for in your shipping, or it's something you have to bake into the campaign cost that you have to be aware of. Because that's something that's going to have to get paid regardless of how many people buy the game.
Yeah, most definitely. So you said to deliver next year. So depending on when, once this gets, the campaign goals reached and the campaign's over, so somebody doesn't, so you don't overpromise and underdeliver. When would they anticipate getting their game of Motora so they can play it?
So I have a timeline on the Kickstarter page that has shipping estimated for June, July of 2019. And that's not shipping to the depots, that's shipping from the depots to people. People will know themselves how long shipping usually takes at that point. For people in the US, since I'll have a US depot, you can expect it to be kind of quick around then. So around June, July is a good time to expect the game. People in the EU, where I have depots as well, similar. One thing I want to do is I'd love to have customs friendly options, depots in other areas as well, but you just need to have the support first. If you only have one backer in Canada, it's not worth sending hundreds of copies up to a depot there.
So what kind of number do you look at for it to be an effective thing to send to a depot? What kind of number would that be, Calum?
Honestly, that's not my area of expertise. So I'm working with a shipping company on my project, and they're the ones I'll go to and say, hey, at what point do you think this would be worth it? I think they said something to me before. They said the low hundreds. So if you have like 200 or 300 backers from a certain location, let's say that was Canada, then you might add a depot in Canada. So something like that.
Okay, and is that what Ship Naked it looks like?
Yes, Ship Naked are the one I'm working with on this one.
Okay, awesome. Now, were there any reviewers that reviewed Motora, and what did they have to say about it, Calum?
So people doing reviews usually don't touch Kickstarter games. What often you'll have is the Kickstarter paid preview, and they make it very clear it's not a review. But in terms of feedback, I gave it to someone from the UK to take home, and have a look at. Not to say I have no reviews. There are some reviews that should be coming out in the next week or so. But they took it home, and their quote, which I have on the Kickstarter page because I think it's brilliant, is Motora is one of the prettiest yet brutal games I have ever played. Which to me summed up exactly the kind of feeling I wanted for the game. Other people have talked about the replayability. The game is made up of 4 modular boards that you fill with 41 tiles. So there's literally millions of combinations in the setup. So you should be able to play it and never have the same experience twice in a row. And that's before you even factor in the fact you have these random event cards that if you shuffle your decks properly should give you a different game every time. All the different equipment and gear cards that you're never entirely sure what you're going to get. It all adds up. So replayability was one of the key things for me, and that's one thing that people have noticed.
So with this modular board that I keep seeing in this GIF that's turning around and around, you fill that up with each of those little squares with a different tile, is that right?
Exactly, yeah, exactly. So you could have games where the volcano is in the middle of the island threatening everyone. You could have games where the volcano is off in the corner doing nothing. You could have games where all the food is in one corner of the map, so people are constantly fighting over the food. You could have games where anything can happen.
So awesome. Yeah, that sounds like a lot of replayability. So that's awesome. So that's great. Yes, and what is it going to, per se, somebody hasn't gone over to the Kickstarter page yet. I don't know why they wouldn't have. Maybe they're driving and listening, but what is it going to put them back so they can get a copy of Motora for themselves?
So currently it's 13. I'm dollars. I don't know off the top of my head, but it's £39 for the base game. That's with all the stretch goals. I kept it simple. There's literally one pledge level left for people and one pledge level for stores. One game that I found quite inspirational when it came to Kickstarter was the Island of El Dorado, which came out last year and then had a second run this year. And what they did was they kept it super simple. Basically, there's a pledge if you want the game and a pledge if you're a shop. And that's something I tried to follow on from. And so it's £39. Shipping gets charged after the campaign. Which is going to be £8 if you live in the US, for a total of, what's that off the top of my head, 47. The game's going to be 45 plus shipping at retail, so you're definitely getting a bit of a saving.
Okay, awesome. And looking at dollars, it looks like the pledge level for the retail, well, not the retailer, but the individual person, it's $51 is what it says, about $51.
Okay, yeah, that's about what I was aiming for. So then it'll be about closer to $60 if you get it at retail.
Okay, awesome. And like you said, with just a simple few options on what to back and what to pick, that helps people with analysis paralysis out as well. So we appreciate it. That way you don't have to go in and say, which one do I really want to get?
Yeah, sometimes I get so confused when there's levels like the deluxe level, the backer level, the level with the miniatures, the level with no miniatures, the level with just certain cards. So I get really confused by some campaigns.
So we'll go ahead and make sure we leave all the links in the show notes so people will not have to go ahead and search for it and get all lost in all the other great games. Speaking of all the other games that are on the Kickstarter, what makes your game pop or stand out as one my audience should go check out and then come back and then they should back if they like what they see, Calum?
Motora will give you a mix of different board gaming experiences you will never find anywhere else. I've looked to see if there were any other games that use the same mix of mechanics, and I honestly can't find them anywhere. Most games you'll find as well are games about building up. You play a worker placement, it's about building your city, building your village, building whatever. This game is different. This game is a race against time. a lot of games can last for a long time. Some games, if they just use like a certain number of points as an end condition, can go on for longer than they were meant to. This game will end because if you don't gather the idols fast enough, the island will be gone. So this game gives you that real kind of tense, like, oh, I'm running out of time. I have to finish my objectives. So if that sounds like something you're kind of interested in, I don't think you'll find a similar experience anywhere else.
Awesome. And like you said, if they like any of those mechanics you use, the worker placement, the resource management, dice combat, or capture the flag, it's also a game for them, as well as like you said, somebody said something about it being a very beautiful game and also very
brutal was the word they used.
Brutal and beautiful, but I think they said it different.
Prettiest yet brutal. One of the prettiest yet brutal games I've ever played.
Yeah, so they want a game like that, so that's awesome. And like I said, we'll make sure we leave all the links in the show notes. Now, Mina's coming over there to stalk you. It sounds like you might be back in the UK. I know you were in Korea for a while, you said. But Mina's coming to your hometown, wherever you're at, to stalk you. How would people go about keeping up with you and your project Motora or other games you might have coming out in the future, Calum?
Well, if you've backed the Kickstarter, then you'll see all our updates on the Kickstarter page itself. We have our own website. It's www.twistedbitgames.com. And then on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, we are all at Twisted Bit Games. There's also a Board Game Geek page for the company and also a Board Game Geek page for the game itself. So if you go to any of those places, you'll be able to find us. On the website, I have an email link so you can join the mailing list, and then you'll hear from me directly through that.
Well, there you go. And how did you come up with the Twisted Bit Gaming, if you don't mind us asking?
Twisted Bit Games? No, I have no idea, to be honest. I think I was just sitting brainstorming easily spelled adjectives and then the word games. So I thought, twisted, what could I twist? Oh, the bits, Twisted Bit Games. Done.
Oh, there you go. I get it. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. So awesome. Now, we don't want to keep you all, I guess, early morning. You got to get up. You got to be able to take a nap after us getting up so early. So we don't want to keep you all day. But we really appreciate you coming on Getting Geeky with Game Relief to talk all about Motora with us, Calum.
No worries. No worries. Glad to be on.
What is this place? What is it doing here in the Leaves computer? Oh, it's Kickstarter Corner with the Leaves.
If you enjoyed anything about Motora, definitely head on over to the link in the show notes so you can check out and see what a great game it is. If you like it, and you can, go ahead and show some support by backing it on Kickstarter. Some other great games and people that we need to go ahead and show our support for would be the likes of Warmonger Halloween Limited Edition for 1 to 4 players. We had Eric on the show this last Saturday. It was a fun sit down with him. It's the ultimate card game of war featuring a blackjack-like combat system, Warmonger power cards, and automated robot players. If you want to hear our interview when we sat down to talk with Eric, you can go ahead and scroll, click that link, and then the second update, new interview with creator Eric Schefferman, that will come straight to your link as you click that, as we show up as the second update on this Kickstarter page. By the time you hear this, it'll be less than 50 hours to go on the Kickstarter, as there's only 53 hours at the time of this recording. So definitely go back and check out Warmonger Halloween Limited Edition for 1 to 4 players. Did you catch our interview on Monday as we sat down with Dane Osmond? Well, if you didn't, go back and listen to that right now. We'll wait for you. What'd you think? I liked it too. Well, anyways, if you didn't catch it, either way, Cosmic Mirror Core Rulebook is currently on the Kickstarters, which has fantasy, sci-fi, and modern fantasy. This core rulebook is the rules needed to play in future Cosmic Mirror game settings, sci-fi, fantasy, and modern fantasy. They're getting closer to their goal, and there's 6 days to go to get on the front of this one as it goes through the 30th of October. Catch our interview yesterday. If you didn't, go back and listen to that one as well. We'll wait. Great. Did you love it? I did. sat down with Oz, the creator mastermind, or the developer and designer of Level 7 Omega Protocol board game, the 2nd edition. It was a fun one. Well, anyway, this game sounds fun too. It's a tactical minis board game for 2 to 6 players where high-tech commandos hunt an alien menace through a secret government facility. They're over 146% funded, and there's still 8 days to go to get on the phone of this one as it ends on Halloween. So definitely check out Level 7 Omega Protocol board game, the 2nd edition, coming to you from Privateer Press. Perhaps you heard of this one from Mighty Boards. It's Petrichor, Honeybee expansion and reprint. A sweet buzzing expansion to Petrichor and a reprint of the base game. They're overfunded. They funded initially in 8 hours, and there's still more than 8 days to go, as there's 9 days to go at the time of recording. It's a 20-minute per player game, 1 to 4 players, and you're a cloud in this game, and with the expansion you get the help of the honeybee. Definitely check out the art on this great game, and then if you like what you see and you can, go check out and back Petrichor, Honeybee expansion and reprint. Halloween's next week. Wow, I can't believe I'm saying that. You don't have the horde of games for Halloween? You want to start collecting them? Building your horde? Well, Rabble Game Studios will help you with that. It's a board game for 2 to 5 players that need to outrun a horde of the undead. Try to stay ahead on your turn before the horde takes theirs. They're almost halfway funded, getting close to that, and there's still 22 days to go. So check out Dead Sprint the game as this project goes through the 15th of November. Freshwater Games has brought us a new game. It's called Circuit Breaker, the board game. It's a puzzle game of quirky competition and crafty rodents. The art is fun, the game is fun, and why not check out the Kickstarter? It's a fun for all ages, 10 and up. So definitely check out Circuit Breaker board game on Kickstarter through the 15th of November. You'll be glad you did. Do you celebrate Gnomevember? Not November, everybody does that, but Gnomevember, when the gnomes come out. Well, there's a game for that as well. Gnomes at Midnight. It's a 2-player light strategy, kind-hearted, fun tabletop board game. Gnomes come alive at midnight, but stay hidden out of the moonlight. We recently sat down with the designer and the publisher, Richard and David, on this great game, and we'll be bringing that interview to you later on this week. So if you're not, make sure you go ahead and subscribe on iTunes so you'll never miss an episode. And then jump over and check out the art on this fun game, in which there's 3 different ways to win the game. It's beautiful art and awesome gameplay from the sound of it. So definitely check out this Kickstarter that's running through the 19th of November. This way you can celebrate Gnomesvember. Jumping back from Gnomesvember to the day before Gnomesvember, which is Halloween. Build your horde of Halloween games now. I'm serious, now. With Zombs, a family-friendly, half-brained zombie card game. Check out our episode of Family Fun Day Friday, number 36, in which me and the Leafs previewed this game. See what we thought about it? We'll leave links in the show notes. Then head on over to zomsgame.com and get a copy for yourself and your friends so you can play before, after, and during trick-or-treating. Happy haunting, everybody, and we'll catch y'all on the flips. Gamer Leaf out.
Gamer Leaf levels up. Tune in next week to see if Gamer Leaf's luck holds up.